Hi, I'm Matt Hernandez, and this is Let's Chat Books. Today we're looking at Justin Cronin's essay from the same book, When I First Held You, edited by Brian Gresco. Now, this essay, coincidentally, I just realized to say this when starting, is also something about miracles. It is quite a fascinating coincidence that 3 of these videos in a row have something to do with miracles, or what could be interpreted there as. Now, this essay, which has a few stories in it, is about how his family kind of came to God, kind of found religion. Now, in the beginning of it, it describes a horrific car crash that Justin Cronin's wife and daughter were in, while at that time Justin was grocery shopping with his young son, his daughter's the older one out of his 2 kids, and how this sort of leads them to like a coming to Christ moment. So I don't know, I find this quite interesting. As I've been thinking for the last few days, because I meant to record this 2 days ago, thinking about, how to sort of respond to this. And I feel most drawn to the more religious paragraphs here, rather than some of the parts here that describe, this horrific car crash, and it describes how there was a fender bender with a pastor of a church, and the woman who helped bring their stuff back to their house went to see if they were okay, and even his daughter was just watching, what show was it? Runaway Bride? I forget which show, but she was just watching a show in her laptop and just secluding herself from everybody else. But, and I mean, even Justin, at one point, at the later part of this essay, this might be the longest essay in this book. Even in the later part of it, he describes what I believe was going through cancer treatment and stuff after failing 2 blood tests. But much of this does center around religion, and the essay is called My Daughter and God. Now, it is also a fascinating title in the sense that out of the 4 of them, himself, wife, oldest daughter, and their young son, only the daughter doesn't convert to any kind of church, any kind of Christianity, I suppose. So I'm going to read here on pages 78 and page 89. Then, after I read off the 2 of those things, off the 2 of those pages, I will give some of my own thoughts and stuff. And of course, like always, I love to hear your thoughts. I love to hear your thoughts, whether they are just any thoughts you have as I'm speaking and that kind of thing, or any thoughts you have if you happen to pick up this book and these essays and this kind of thing. Maybe these essays could even be found online at this point. Okay, here goes, page 78. I think I should move this here to try to show the text on this side. Okay, 78. She found herself then standing alone in the Texas night. I do not recall if the weather was clear, but I like to think it was. All those fat stars shining down. My wife had been raised Missouri Synod Lutheran, but a series of intertribal squabbles had soured her parents on the whole thing, and apart from weddings and funerals, hadn't set foot in a church for years. Yet the outdoor cathedral of a starry Texas night is a good place as any to communicate with the Almighty, which she commenced to do. In the hours since the accident, the adrenaline cleared. Her recollection of events had led her to a calculus that rewrote everything she thought she knew about the world. Until that night, her vision of a universal deity had been basically impersonal. God in her mind was simply too busy to take interest in the individual human affairs. The universe possessed a moral shape, but events were haphazard, unguided by providence. Now, as she contemplated the accident, mentally listing the many ways that she and our daughter would have died, and yet did not, She decided she was wrong. Of course, God paid attention. It, only the intercession of a divine hand could explain such a colossal streak of luck. Likewise, did the accident become in her mind a product of celestial design? It was a message. It meant something. She had been placed in a circumstance in which a mother's greatest fear was about to be realized, then yanked from the brink. Her future emerged in her mind as something given back to her. It was as if she and our daughter had been killed on the highway and then restored to life. And like all supplicants in the wilderness, she asked God what her purpose was, and he returned her to the world. This is quite interesting in contrasting with the last two stories I had done a video on. On Chinua Achebe's Civil Peace, a miracle was simply to be alive, him, his wife, and his 3 living children. And it seemed that in that story, the character, Jonathan's youngest child, had passed. In Carol Shields' various miracles, a miracle was like an extreme coincidence, like 5 people, or was it 5 or 7 people, in line having the same name. But here, Justin Cronin, when recalling a story in an essay, but it contains a story in here, a miracle is the traditional definition I think many of us would use as a miracle. And it's that sort of coming to Jesus moment, right? And it's interesting to read it off this because I find with literature, if we discuss it here, then maybe if I think that this is a good point or an interesting point or how don't we all do this, then maybe somebody might not debate me, but then we still keep it on the merit of the text. So I thought it was quite an interesting section to read off. Okay, here, page 89. In the end, as in the scriptures, it was the child who led us. To our surprise, our son Tuck had been a secret Episcopalian. His school is affiliated with an Episcopal parish, and students attend chapel once a week. We always assumed this was part of the sort of wishy-washy non-denominational fare which places dish out, but were wrong. One day, apropos of nothing, as I was driving him home from school, he announced that he believed in Jesus. Really? I said. When did that happen? I don't know, he said and shrugged. It just makes sense to me. Lisa, pastor's nice. We should go sometime. To your church, you mean? Sure, he said. I think it would be great. Just like that, the matter was settled. We now go every week, the 3 of us. St. Stephen's is located in a diverse neighborhood in Houston, and much of the congregation is gay or lesbian. There are protocols, but very loose ones, and the church has open communion and a terrific choir. Pastor Lisa is a woman in her 50s with a gray page boy, wears blue jeans and Birkenstocks under her robes, and gives a huge hug that feels like falling into bed. She knows I was raised Catholic and laughed when I told her that I didn't mind that she got some of the words wrong. I have my doubts, as always, but it seems like a fine church to have them in. My son finds some of the service boring, as all children do, but he likes communion, which he calls his force field for the week. He has asked to be baptized next fall. So this is a bit interesting, right? It was their son who led them to go to a church. And there are parts in this essay in which the author, Justin Cronin, he sort of discusses, different denominations and not knowing what to make of it and all this stuff. So, I mean, it might have been their son who led them to church, but it might have been a matter of time before either his wife or son was to go. But at least at the end, their daughter is still not interested, and he loves her all the same. And it is an interesting title, My Daughter and God, because it's not a relationship between his daughter and the relationship with the divinity and all that stuff. It is the rest of their family. So I don't know, I think it's quite an interesting essay, and I think I can speak for quite a while longer, but I don't know at what point that would become ranting. And I think that I should probably cut myself off for now, and at some other point, if I can speak, um, more stream of consciousness, then maybe that would be appropriate. For now, this video is probably long enough, and I do like some of the concepts here, and it's quite interesting that we could see somebody how they had that coming to Christ moment and all that stuff. Well, have a wonderful day. See you later.